Trading Room Weekly Watch List. No predictions, no hype, just confirmations that I'm tracking across the market. Remember, the chart doesn't change based on account size, only how you express it does. Disclaimer, this watch list is not trade advice. It's a snapshot of where structure is developing, where confirmation is missing, and where patience is still required. Remember, no lock candle, no entry. Typically what we'll be looking for is WTMA alignment, WTMA cloud behavior, and structural acceptance or rejection. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the charts. All right, first up, we have Snowflake Inc. Ticker SNOW. So looking at the macro time frame on the bottom right, on the monthly. So on the monthly, we only have a 12 EMA retest. As you can see, it is holding the uptrend very well. All it did was do a controlled pullback and bounced off the 12 EMA. Go ahead and looking at the weekly time frame. This is probably the next best indicator that this is going to the upside. As you can see on the weekly time frame, we have that same control pullback into a liquidity sweep on the weekly time frame. A liquidity sweep is when a stock goes past institutional buy or sell zones, go under those, and pop back through them. So as you can see, it's in the process of doing that right now on the weekly time frame. On the 3-day, as you can see, same setup. Institutional buy zone right here. It's called an internal order block. As you can see, price action came down. Boom, now it's rebounding back up. And also, we also have a trend line here as well. Another great indication that this is going to hold the up move. On the daily time frame, we have a fresh inverse arc to the upside. As you can see, same control pullback, inverse arc going up. It failed to break this trend line right here, and it rejected. It rejected a little harder than it did the first time, but that's okay. And as you can see now, we have a 200 moving average retest. So now we have a fresh inverse arc to the upside. And now all we need now is to reclaim this 12 EMA, close above it and open above it, and we're back to the races to the upside. All right, go ahead and looking at the 4-hour. As you can see, same setup. We have a inverse arc that happened on the 16th of December. We did have a breach of the 12 EMA on the 17th, and then a pullback and another up move above the 12 EMA. So now it's just consolidating slightly above the 12 EMA along on top of this trend line, ready for the up move. And also, we also have very slim VRVP nodes. So price action can easily go to 235, 234.50, very fast and very easy. And then on the 2-hour time frame, which is the time frame I like to use when I enter trades. So right here we have 12 EMA breach the WTMA Cloud twice. So the second time is that's your indication. Hey man, be on the lookout. This thing's finna make a big move. Same VRVP nodes. It points you to the same price, 235, 234.50. And we also created 2 more internal order blocks, which means institutions are buying here for sure. All right, next on the list, we have Apple, AAPL. So looking at the macro time frame, this thing just keeps hitting all-time highs. There's no ceiling on it. I had to take off the liquidity levels because it just keep breaking through them. So I'll update those for my community. As you can see, we're still floating above the WTMA Cloud, the WTMA, and we just had a break of structure 2 months ago. So that's extremely bullish. So what I'm looking for now is to make a new internal order block so it can keep going higher. So on the 1 week time frame, we have a 12 EMA retest to the T, which is also the previous month's low. So that's a good level to be bouncing at. And as you can see, once we get above 278.50, we have very low VRVP nodes, and this thing could just rip to the upside. Probably going to go to that psychological level of 300. All right, looking at the 3-day time frame over here, we have a liquidity sweep that's pending right now. So it came down to a known level in the institutional buy zone, internal order block. Almost pierced all the way through it, which would have been the better move, but it did go 90% through it, and then it rejected that down move very fast. So now we're just looking above. We're looking at a opening close above the internal order block for it to go back above, and then once it passed this liquidity level at 282.48, well 47, this thing can just rip. Looking at the 1-day time frame, we have a trend line and we have an institutional buy area as well. So same thing with the 3-day liquidity sweep, bounce above. So we're looking for a reclaim of this 12 EMA on the 1-day, and then once it passes the previous month high, this thing can rip. And then on the daily time frame, 284.67 is the liquidity level. All right, on the 4-hour, we already have a ARC confirmation alert. So as you can see, I'll zoom in. We have the fresh inverse arc right here, and we closed above the 12 EMA. So right now, this is the 4-hour and the 2-hour is the earliest that you'll get that confirmation. So as you can see, we got above the previous week low and the previous day high, and above the 12 EMA, and we bounced off the trend line and a liquidity sweep on the 4-hour. So this thing is gonna bounce like crazy. And then on the 2-hour, we simply have a 200 EMA retest along with a fresh inverse arc and arc confirmation alert. So I'm looking at the next liquidity level, the soonest liquidity level at 276.76. And then after that, 278.42. So Apple is gearing up to make that move. The number 3 ticker on the list is SoFi, SOFI. So starting off with the monthly time frame, we have a WTMA signal retest. As you can see, it rejected a move below the previous week low, which is very good and a bullish standpoint. Still having a good up move. It did have an aggressive ATR on the week down, but I believe the aggressive move came from the bounce or the rejection of the down move. I'm pretty sure of it. Going ahead looking at the weekly time frame. So as you can see, it is stuck under liquidity right now at 28.79. It is still above. It's still rejecting the downside move under the WTMA Cloud. So what we're looking for is a opening close above the 12 EMA, and then breaking that liquidity level of 28.87-ish, and then it can continue going upward. And once it breaks that 32.65 height that it had, it's going to go. Looking on the 3-day, so as you can see, we do have confluence here. So all we need to wait for on the 3-day is a fresh inverse arc, because it is liquidity sweeping right now, and it's rejecting the down move on the bottom of the WTMA Cloud. So, and once it passes $28, opening close above $28, the VRVP nodes get slimmer and slimmer. So that's what we're looking for on SoFi. On the 1-day time frame, it rejected the downside move off of a trend line, and it's about to create a fresh inverse arc on the daily time frame, which it already created on the 4-hour time frame, accompanied with a floating candle. Everybody in the Wolf Empire knows that we capitalize on floating candles. So as you can see, it's bouncing off the trend line on the 4 hour. So once it passes 27.93, this thing can go, and then it would have to pass over this trend line right here. And then moving on to the 2 hour, I believe this is the same node that I just mentioned in the 4 hour time frame. So after 27.67, this thing can rip. All right, number 4 on the list. This is definitely not ranked in order, so I'm gonna let you know that right now. We have Micron Technology, MU. On the monthly time frame, this thing has been ripping for 4 months straight. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and include those last 3. 7 months straight. All right. So as you can see, it had a WTMA Cloud break from the 12 EMA, like we talked about, and it's just been going parabolic ever since. As you can see, there's no VRVP nodes above it, so it can just keep going and keep going. Look for that psychological level of 300 on the weekly time frame. With all the Japan yen news or the Fed rate decision, it drawed down to the 12 EMA and rejected that so fast. So now it's back above the 12 EMA and the WTMA itself. So this thing is going to keep ripping. As you can see on every time frame that we have up here, aggressive, breakout, confirmation, strong momentum, aggressive. This means that this thing is just going to keep going up. As you can see on the 3-day, we just got a fresh inverse arc with it closing above its previous month's high. So that's extremely bullish off of the retest of the WTMA Cloud and the 12 EMA. Looking at the daily time frame in the top right corner, we have a fresh inverse arc pending with a fresh breaker structure, which is extremely bullish. As you can see right here, it says weak high because it hasn't been there before. So it can just keep ripping and ripping. On the 4-hour, we have a very favorable fair value gap that you can enter this trade on. I'm not saying enter this trade because this is not financial advice, but it closed above liquidity on the 4-hour at the level of 261.31. That is the level that's actually the middle of this fair value gap. So, I mean, it would only make sense to enter on this 4-hour fair value gap. But let's go ahead and look at the 2-hour right now. So as you can see, it's extremely bullish, breaker structure. This red candle on the 2-hour is only because at the end of the day on Friday, they tried to sell off tech, which was insane to me because I watched so many stocks drop half of their ATRs, their daily ATRs, which was crazy to me. So I'm just gonna go to the 15-minute. So yeah, so this is what it looks like on the 15-minute, which it looks crazy on a day trader standpoint, but macro trading, it doesn't. And also, there was news that Micron has already sold its entire 2026 memory supply, which you might want to add this to your long-term portfolio. Hint, hint, foot stomp. All right, last but not least on my list is CAVA, C-A-V-A. So looking at the monthly time frame, since its IPO, it's actually right above its IPO level, which is absolute bottom for this ticker almost. So the absolute bottom was 29.70. Right now it's trading at 56.91. So it's I think it hit its bottom, its temporary bottom, and now it's back on the up. Looking at the weekly time frame, we have a ACS confirmation. It is an arc confirmation alert. So we have a fresh inverse arc and close above the 12 EMA. As you can see, the VRVP nodes are very thin in this area. So it actually has a gap to fill. So the gaps goes all the way to 62.71. Looking at the 3-day, you can see that gap clear as day. So we just had a break of structure from the low that it had closer to its IPO. So looking at this gap, the gap will easily fill at 59.97. But I think it has a little more juice to go because of the empty VRVP nodes. Looking on the 1 day, we have a good fresh stack of confluence. So we have an internal bullish order block paired with a fresh inverse arc and a floating candle. Again, floating candle, bullish or bearish if it's the other way around. So we're looking at the level of 58.31 as historical resistance, but I mean, that is in an empty VRVP node area, so it can blow past that very quick. All right, looking on the 4-hour, as you can see, we have a internal order block, bullish order block again, inverse arc that occurred on Monday, December 15th. And now we're just trying to go through the 200 EMA cloud. Once it goes through that cloud, I'm telling you, it's going to magnet to at least $60. And I'm thinking like $62 right here. It's just going to vacuum to that price. And moving to the 2-hour, as you can see, we have no resistance whatsoever on the 2-hour. So no resistance, empty VRVP nodes. We also have a 12 EMA cloud break over the WTMA Cloud, which is extremely bullish. This is what makes those parabolic moves. And that wraps up my weekly watch list. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the comment section. If you're learning how to wait for confirmation instead of chasing moves, comment and learn. Everything we teach here feeds into the trading route system. Education first. Go ahead and take a look at those links in the description if you want to learn more. Peace.